Is your day going fine so far?
Fine so far. I've done shopping and interviews. It's like,
Shopping and interviews. That's an impressive background. Did you have that from day one of becoming a Zoom person?
yes, it makes me look learned, or
Uh,
somewhere in Hogwarts.
I wouldn't actually know the answer to this. Are you a big reader?
I am. And what has been odd in this pandemic, I thought, oh, I just finished like my first. I picked up a book like 5 days ago and finished it. And I thought I'd be through all of this. Not even close.
Not even close. Do you read primarily memoirs or fiction?
It depends. I go all over the place. I get into a biography phase. Then I had to write. I was working on a project, a film noir project. So I was reading all detective and mysteries. That was for a year. Now oh, I guess I'm still in that. Linwood Barclay has become someone I'm working through his oeuvre. Stephen
Oh,
King, always. And who else? Oh, Michael Connolly, who writes the Bosch series. So I
right.
guess I'm still in that area right now. But every once in a while, something will come up, and I'll read that. I'm not a snob.
Well, before I get to asking about boys and girls, you're one of those people that everybody recognizes, or at least in my world, everyone recognizes. But I could never say who Colin Mochrie's favorite band is, what his favorite movie is. And I can imagine the influences are all over the place, hence, your success as an improviser.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, as an improviser, I mean, you soak everything that's ever made you laugh or made you think or that you've enjoyed. There's a this theory that when you're close to death or in a bad situation and your life flashes before your eyes, it's your brain downloading every bit of information you've ever had in your life to see if there's something that will help you get out of the situation. And that's what improvising is like. Your mind just goes through everything you've ever experienced and gone through. You open your mouth and something comes out.
Exactly. So the new movie, even though it's not the latest project you've worked on, according to your IMDb page,
Oh,
is
really?
Boys and Girls. When did you actually film it? Because it says 2019 on the IMDb page, and then I think it says it's 2020 on your Wikipedia, like the press release. And sometimes movies are made, a year or two before they come out.
Yeah. I'm going to say 2018 was when, yeah, I think that's when we filmed it. And then they've been working editing. And then, of course, everything got sort of, I don't know if you read the papers, but there's been stuff happening. It's really thrown us for a loop.
I could imagine. Were you on set the whole time?
I was there for 3 days. So it was in and out. It was, I mean, it was lovely. I've known Kevin McDonald for a long time, so
Right.
and I knew he was going to be on the shoot, so I knew that was going to be fun. And then meeting these young people who, obviously are there to replace me once I go. It was nice working with them. And Mike was a fun director and was very open to us having fun with the script. I mean, we would do this. Our first take, it would be a script take, and then he would say, "All right, have fun, do whatever you want," which you don't always get, and which I mean, I never improvise on set unless I'm asked to. I'm always, my job is to make sure the writer's words are used and his point of view comes out. So it was nice to have that sort of fun.
That's got to be a good ego kind of thing that when you get the Bruce Willis deal, when it's like, yeah, you just show up for 3 days and we'll cater it around you because you're such a big star.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, Bruce and I have we've talked about this, how similar we are. Um,
yeah, I think
yeah, I
that's
mean,
why I dropped the name.
I actually, I don't have that many scenes in the a movie, and since it was, we had the one location, it was pretty easy just to schedule everything. So I would say in the last 5 years, every movie I've worked on has been like that, where I've come in, I've done everything in 3 days, and then they send me away. I try not to, see something in that maybe that's as long as they can take me.
No. Well, people who dig into the research on you know that you had to move around a lot as a kid.
Mhm.
So I don't assume that you went to a lot of summer camp in your upbringing.
No, never went to a summer camp. My daughter did, and I'm jealous because I see the relationship she still has with campers she went to. She became a counselor, and
Right.
this particular camp she went to was a really, it was a really lovely camp where they had like a, a a tree that everybody would stand around, and then if there was something that was bothering you or you were homesick, you would go up to the tree and you'd talk, and then everybody would hug you, and it was just a lovely camp. And I thought, I feel like I missed out on something big because watching Meatballs isn't actually the same as being in a summer camp.
Was the entire thing filmed at the camp?
It was they lucked out in that if you're shooting a summer camp movie,
Hmm.
you need a camp in the summer. And that's usually when camps are actually busy.
Yeah.
So they actually found this one that they were about to renovate. So they were going to start renovations in July. So that meant all of June they had for the film. So it was a lucky little accident.
I don't know if it's practically a profanity to say the words wet hot American summer when you're talking to another person in a camp movie per se, but I remember reading and hearing that wet hot American summer, it rained the whole time that they filmed that movie. It was just a stroke of bad luck. I assume the weather was cooperative when you made this movie.
It was quite, from what I can remember, it was. I think there was one day where they feared there was going to be rain, which I always love. It's like, so it can't rain in the movie? But I'm guessing there's other considerations. Um, but yeah, the weather was quite good. And I always wonder, is Dirty Dancing a camp movie?
I think it is. I watched that Netflix documentary that they did about how we think of it as this huge movie and how at the time it was kind of a failure that no one expected anything from, and that's the movie music they used because they had no budget and etc. But they filmed it at a different resort than they presented it at. I think it's a camp movie. Do you?
Yeah, and that was my first date with my wife was that movie. That's how much I loved her. I went to that movie.
I interviewed the two guys a couple days ago who wrote "I've Had the Time of My Life" and "Hungry Eyes," and those songs to me are unlike anything else in their catalogs. I guess they got into a weird mindset to be able to write something so romantic.
I guess so. And it helps when cash is being waved at you. You go, no, I can do this. Hungry eyes. Wait a minute, it's coming to me.
Exactly. So speaking of that, what music are you into? As I said before, I have no idea what you're into, and you can name the most obscure Canadian bands. That's fine with me.
Chilliwack.
I know Chilliwack. They're on my yacht rock playlist.
When
Yes.
I was okay, when I was growing up in Vancouver, Chilliwack, and there was a group called Doug and the Slugs.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, sort of the precursor to almost Bare Naked Ladies. I loved their music, but they also had a sense of humor. And of course, like the Beatles, um, the Rolling Stones. You've heard of those guys.
A couple
Yeah.
times.
I mean, there are times where I have. I remember during the Wings day where it was like, yeah, Paul McCartney was in another band before Wings. You should check them out. They had some good stuff. Um, and then, well, right now, our constants in the house are the Rat Pack, Sinatra and Dean Martin. My wife is more a eclectic. She plays classical music in the morning. She's a big Zeppelin fan. She saw the Beatles in concert. She was at Woodstock. So
Wow.
yeah, she ran away to Woodstock. She was 14. She ran away and got caught and didn't see anything. And I thought, how could you get caught in there were thousands of people.
Yeah.
She said I stuck out.
Now I know. I like to ask people who are immersed in the Canadian scene. Of course, you've had all the success in the States and elsewhere, but I find out about bands like Street Heart who never made it here that were a big deal in Canada. And I found out about all these great bands that we have been deprived of because we didn't have much music, except if you had extensive cable programming.
Yeah, well, for a long time we were deprived of Canadian bands because it wasn't until the 70s that they basically forced radio stations to play Canadian bands,
Right.
just to get that content out there. And everyone, at that point, people said, "Oh well, this is gonna," because that's the kind of country we are. Well, this is gonna suck. We have to listen to our own music. And then these artists became known worldwide and respected, and it ultimately ended up being a great thing. And I wish they would kind of do it with our movies and television. You know, things
Oh,
like Schitt's Creek, Kim's Convenience are reaching, but I
yeah.
think we can do more.
Yeah, Letterkenny is starting to make a big impact over
Yeah.
here as well.
Oh, and there's a new Transplant, which has become a big hit in the States. Yeah, so
But I think the genius thing about what you just mentioned about how a certain percentage of Canadian music had to be played on Canadian airwaves. So certain American artists like Bon Jovi and Metallica were kind of figuring out, well, if we record in Vancouver with Bob Rock, then it's a Canadian album, therefore it has to be played.
brilliant, brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. And as I mentioned before, Boys and Girls, not the only thing on your IMDb page that's coming up. I see Ankle Biters and Maybe There's a Tree. Are those both correct titles?
Oh, geez. I don't think those were the titles when I started. Maybe there'll be a tree. I think I did that like 5 years ago. Ankle Biters was maybe two or three. And I have to say, when I think of what the story was, that title is very wrong for it.
Okay. Well, on a much, much brighter note, I admire how you and Brad have taken things online. You didn't just go, well, there's no touring, we're over. You took it to Zoom. You're
Yeah.
suffering through Zoom with me. You're suffering through Zoom with that. And I do see that you do have January 2021 tour dates that are still booked. We'll see what happens with that in April and May and all that. But what was your impetus to kind of realize that you could take everything to Zoom with your improv?
Well, we realized fairly soon that we were not going to be going back to theaters in the immediate future. I mean, over the last 18 years, my life has been airplanes and theaters.
Hmm.
So I thought there's a change coming. And we sort of talked, and we have a great technical team, and they sent us green screens and everything. And we tried to figure out how to do our show. And we had a couple of sort of preview shows with friends and family. God bless them.
Yeah.
And from those shows, we realized this sucks. We realized we couldn't transfer our stage show to Zoom because the screen, first of all, shrinks everybody's attention span. And on stage we can do 20-minute scenes and we still keep the audience involved.
Yeah.
This, no, so we decided, okay, let's do more, make it more like an improvised sketch show where it's all improvised, but everything's shorter and faster. And the biggest thing was getting around not being a slave to the technology, having the technology be sort of like a third improviser rather than our boss, and we could
Yeah.
just have fun. And that took a couple of shows, and now it's like, oh, it's like sort of second nature. And response has been great. I mean, it's weird not hearing laughter during a show, which Brad is totally used to. I,
I
however,
knew that was coming.
but it is
Yeah.
odd having to have that extra. Okay, this is. I'm pretty sure this is funny. I'm just going to go with it. Let's hope.
And in terms of live entertainment, the shows with Brad are not the only live performances you do. There's the hypnosis shows, which is definitely innovative. There's the shows that you do with your wife. Real question here. Is there different preparation for you mentally between all those live performances? Yes, you've been doing this forever in a good way, but is it kind of like, okay, I'm with my wife, I can't do this, this, and this, or is it all the same at this point?
There is, yes, there's differences in every. With Brad, we've been touring for 18 years. We do sort of what we call a live version of Who's Line without the tall guy and the black guy. So it's a lot of the games from Who's Line that we sort of
Yeah.
manipulated some of them to make it easier for the two of us. With Deb, it's more an improv show. We call it our one couple show. So a lot of it is more, and the sexual tension is much more than it is with Brad. But
Yeah.
Deb doesn't feel at as ease with games. She's characters and more narrative scenes, which is great. The hypnotist is just me panicking for an hour, working with people I've just met who are in a hypnotic state.
Yeah.
So that one, in the other two shows, I can relax a little bit because I'm working with people I trust and who are experienced improvisers. With the hypnosis, I'm more keeping my eye out for trouble spots and what's going to happen. And I have to say, the hypnotized improvisers, every show we find a star, someone who is where I'm happy just to follow and support them. But I'm exhausted after that show.
I could imagine. And further into my deep, deep research of you, I read that on Whose Line that the Hoedown section was always the troubling, tough, nerve-wracking part. At this point in your life, is that now easier, even if you don't sing per se, to just come up with musically oriented comedy on the spot?
No, it's horrific. It will never be like all of us hate it. We despise it. First of all, it's not a musical style. Hoedown is not a musical style. But there's the thing of I was usually third. So there's the first person who immediately is under the spot. They have to come up with a funny rhyme. And then the second person, same thing. By the time it gets to me, I have to have 2 or 3 rhymes just in case one of those bastards take mine. And it happens all the time. And poor Ryan's at the end, and I can just hear him whispering, "Don't say it." And yours with, and I'm going, look, I'm out to save my ass. I'll say whatever I want. So it's at no point is it oh yeah, this will be fine. We've done 30 years of hoedowns. It's going to be so easy. It never is.
I've encountered a lot of musicians who can only improvise when it comes to singing, and they have the instrument in their hand and they can't do what you do. So it might be person to person on that end.
Okay, it might be.
Well, my closing question, because you've been so generous with your time, and yes, we're going to see Boys and Girls with you, the great Kevin McDonald, et cetera, is Colin, any last words for the kids?
Kids in the hall or just kids?
Well, the regular kids.
Kids in the hall. Great.
They're getting a reboot. But
well done. For all the kids, yeah, go see this movie. You know what? Here's the thing. I think we found throughout the last year how important humor is, how important entertainment and arts are. So please get involved with the arts, support the arts, get your parents and other people to support it because it truly is an essential service and is much needed today. And also be kind to everyone. You know, it seems, oh, okay, here's old man Mochrie. It seems that in the last a decade or so, empathy is starting to shrink, and we don't put ourselves in other people's shoes as much as we should. And we should, because not everyone can be as privileged as us, or not everyone can have a stable home life or whatever as we. So if somebody's acting out or going through a bad time, try to find out why. Try to imagine what it would be like to be in that situation, and always reach out.
Couldn't say it any better myself there. Thank you so much for your time, and just looking forward to seeing Ankle Biters and Maybe There's a Tree in the near future.
Well, good luck. I've been waiting for years.
Thanks again.
Thanks,
Take care.
Paltrocast.